It's about I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
Phoenix has the foul, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
DeBrincat gets it back to Goss. He's bearing across now. Kane. They score! Raymond!
Foz got to throw it. It's caught by St. Brown for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. Victory Tuesday against, it's been, what, eight wins? 8 wins in a row for our Lions. Before I get to that, because I like to be a little casual when we start the show before we get into the actual segments, rants, all that. Michigan State is playing a basketball game tonight. Normally, okay, makes sense. Tuesday nights, that's fine. Fine. Play your basketball games Tuesday nights. Now, I looked at the television today. I sound like an old man. I looked at the television today. And I was going through, I was like, okay, they're probably on Big Ten Network. It's early on in the season. They're not very good. They probably end up on the Big Ten Network. I didn't see them on the Big Ten Network. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe they're on FS1. Kind of second tier bad channel, right? So I check FS1. They're not on FS1. I'm like, well, I know they're not on Fox. I know they're not on CBS or ESPN. They're playing Sanford. And then it all clicked. I remembered what I saw this morning. Michigan State is playing a college basketball game against Samford behind the paywall. They are playing on Peacock. Now, I have had my gripes with the Peacock, but I will say, I do think the NBC broadcast does a fine job. It's a fine enough broadcast. However, who determines these Peacock games? Isn't it sort of indicative they want to put a good game on there? Now, the problem is, and we talked about this before, you can't put the really, really good games on there, right? Because then you'll lose viewership, right? Or the other networks will just want to get those on national. For example, I know this isn't probably going to be as big of a marquee game this year, but Michigan State in college basketball, usually that's a big game. I mean, I guess it's a big game anyway because it's a rivalry game, but this year, that game is usually on Fox, or it's on CBS or ESPN even. That game is usually on one of the big college basketball networks. They can't put, or maybe they'll put it on NBC right? But they can't put it on Peacock because it's too big of a game. Now, the same would apply. I guess let's think of good college basketball teams. I know this can't happen because Peacock has a Big Ten deal. But if you did Kansas Duke, that's not going on Peacock. That's going on CBS. That's going on TNT. That's going on ESPN. That's going on Fox. That's not going on Peacock. So you're stuck where you're like, okay, well, you can't put the garbage games, even though that is exactly what they are doing. Why are they putting Samford, Michigan State? Like, this is like the Peacock game should be Michigan State Rutgers, or I guess Rutgers actually might be pretty good this year. Or like a Michigan State Purdue. Well, okay, Purdue's usually pretty good. You know what? Michigan State Purdue in football. That's a Peacock game, right? Actually, that's a pretty bad game. Hold on. I'm trying to. It's got to be like a mid-off, basically. Like, it's got to be a game where it's not so bad, but it's also not very good. I don't know. I get. First of all, we shouldn't be putting any games behind an individual paywall, but that's its own thing. Anyway, welcome to BS Sports. We got a great show. Look, we got a lot to get to. All right. Obviously, the Lions are the headline. We're going to talk about them. They drop another 50 bomb. I was surprised that we got 150 bomb on the air. I thought that would be enough. Little did I know that the AFC South would be the Lions' little plaything this year because we've absolutely destroyed them and we're loading the matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. The rest of the NFL, a lot of craziness. And I got to talk about some coaches. I haven't actually put this in the show sheet, so this is going to be unscripted. Not that anything is ever scripted, but coaches that have survived and how have they survived? Like, how are they still NFL coaches? We'll go through that together. All of us hold hands, unless you don't want to hold hands. So I don't really like holding hands. We don't have to do that. So either way, we'll go through it. We'll get through it together. And then we got some college football stuff to talk about. I'm not waiting for the college football playoff ranking reveal because that takes way too long, and I don't want to be up until 11 at night, even though I might be up until 11 at night anyway. But that's neither here nor there. Welcome to the show, Detroit fan man. Look, let's just jump into it, though. All right. Lions. Look, for most people, and myself included, I really, what do you want me to say about this game? Jared Goff looks amazing. The Lions absolutely destroy. I guess the thing that you want, if there's anything I can say, this is the best team in the NFL. And it's really not all that close. What people might say is, well, have the Lions really been challenged yet? And okay, fair enough. The Lions up to this point, I guess you would say their toughest game was at Minnesota, right? Right? Maybe Rams Sunday night. That was a tougher game. At least it was listed that way. And look, it's one thing for me. I get it, right? If you got to play a bunch of bad teams, I get it. However, it's not just that we're winning, okay? It's that we are taking these bad teams and throwing them out of the stadium before the half is even over. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that at the half, it was 28-3, and it might as well have been 1,000-3 because Jacksonville was not going to move the football. Now, I get it. Mac Jones was in. Trevor Lawrence was down. I don't care. There would have been absolutely no difference in the production. For one, Trevor Lawrence is having a down year. This Jaguars team is spiraling out of control. The fact that Doug Peterson has survived to this point, watch, by the time the end of the show, the news will come out that he's fired. I do not understand why he still has a job. But either way, on that, this is now basically 3 of the 6. I point out this stat. 3 of the last 6 games through this 8-game win streak, we have brought in the backup quarterback before the game was over. We have brought in the backups in general. Craig Reynolds has gotten rushing yards in 3 of those 6 games, and I guess 2 of them were at home. It was the Titans, and then this game, and then the other one was the Cowboys. And that game, he probably could have had the backups in the whole time. Just the way they're playing. That is, it's just, I can't put it to words because there really is nothing. What do you Lions good? 7 straight touchdown drives and then a field goal drive. Jack Fox could have stayed at home and the game would not have changed. Like that is beyond just being, a top team in the league, right? That is, you are far and away. The Lions could have brought in their backups before the third quarter ended, but no. They wanted it to hurt, right? They wanted to make sure the Jaguars knew, okay, you are in a different universe than we are. Like, we are not talking about the same sport when we're talking about these two teams. What the Jags are doing and what the Lions are doing is like night and day. And it's funny because both these teams kind of entered into their rebuilds at similar times, and we see the fruits of the labors at this point. 2021 and 2020, 2021, I want to say that was that 2021? Yeah, I guess 2020, they got Trevor Lawrence. Hold on, I'm getting my years all mixed up. 2020, they got Trevor Lawrence. 2021 draft, they got Trevor Lawrence. Whatever. Either way, both these teams started their rebuilds around the same time, and 3-ish years later, the Lions are a Super Bowl contender, and the Jaguars have won one division title and one playoff game, and are now one of the worst teams in the league, and very well could be picking number 1 overall, depending on how everything rolls out. And this is funny because this is a team in Jacksonville that has had 2 number 1 overall picks. And, I mean, Trayvon Walker has been a solid player, but the problem is he's never going to be remembered because Aiden Hutchinson was taken right after him. Simple as. Now, on the other end, defensively, Zadarius Smith has a solid game, gets his first sack as a Lion. Love to see that. I want to see how many tackles he was credited with, if I can find it. I guess he didn't get very many tackles, but he did get a half a sack. I mean, I'll call it a full sack. That sounded weird. But he makes an impact. And we don't see the pressures. We don't see that. At least I don't see that stat here on ESPN. But he was making his name known. He was making his presence known. Mac Jones was not really able to escape the pocket for the most part. He had to either get rid of the ball or he was going down. On the other end, in bad news, obviously Alex Anzalone going down, forearm broken. He'll be out for, I think they said 6 to 8 weeks, which is probably the regular season, right? I think it's 6 weeks would be exactly the regular season. I doubt that he gets back any sooner. And frankly, I don't think we need him to come back any sooner. Like, if we can clinch this number 1 spot, like I said, before Christmas, then what's the point of having to rush Alex Anzalone? Just wait until the playoffs and bring him back. Because then you're going to get the extra bye week if you're the number 1 overall seed. So just do that. And another crazy stat that I pointed out, it's not that unbelievable when you just are looking at the numbers, but Lions are 3 wins away from matching their win total of last year. It is November. That's insane. And to think the irony of it all is their 1 loss on the year to the Bucs back in week 2. That was a very winnable game. Like that was a game where, they excuse me, they kind of lost that one themselves, but that was a game they very well could have won. Either way, obviously not trying to get into the weeds of it all. I think it's, and the other, I guess one more thing. This was also a 52 bomb without Sam Laporta. Like, this offense is basically just pick your poison defense, and that individual will murder you. If it's not Jamison Williams getting a 60-yard bomb, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown just nickel and diming you. If it's not David Montgomery just running over human beings, it's Jahmyr Gibbs just turning the gas on a screenplay and flipping the field the other way. It's so palpable just how good this offense is. And just the fact that the secondary for the Lions in Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph are basically the 2 best safeties in the league tells me that this team, look, I said it a couple of weeks ago, and I think I said it before the Texans game. Like, they're going to go in favored in every single game for the rest of the year. Even against the Bills, I would be shocked if they are not favored. They would have to go on a losing streak here for that to fall out of their hand. But the way that they are playing, I mean, I want to say their point differential in one quarter is better than some teams all year. Like, you can't make up some of these stats. It just feels like a team that is just completely dissatisfied with anything other than massacring their opponents. Like, even I was listening to the radio, and they asked Jared Goff, one of the interviewers asked Jared Goff, hey, what do you think of the Lions now being the odds-on favorites to win the Super Bowl? He without hesitation, nothing. It means nothing. And I truly think that mentality is like throughout the entire team. It reminds me, and I made this point before, and I hate it as a Spartan fan, but I think it's true. It reminds me of last year's Michigan Wolverine football team, where it just didn't matter what happened. Like, leave the cheating scandal aside, right? It didn't matter what happened. Like, oh, your coach gets suspended at the beginning of the year for recruiting violations. Doesn't matter. We're going to body bag teams. Oh, your coach gets suspended at the end of the year for cheating allegations. Doesn't matter. We're going to body bag people. Oh, your offensive lineman gets hurt. Doesn't matter. Very next play, Blake Corum touchdown. Oh, you have to play Alabama in the playoff as opposed to playing an undefeated Florida State team whose quarterback just died. Doesn't matter. We're going to win the game in overtime. Like, oh, you're going to play Michael Penix, and he's got all these weapons and an elite offense. He comes back trying to get revenge on, the Big Ten. And, he was a former Big Ten guy. Doesn't matter. Donovan Edwards comes out of nowhere and buries them in the first quarter. Like, this is how that feels. Like, we're just destroying teams. And I don't think we're going to destroy teams every single week in and win out, or week in and week out. I don't even think that we're necessarily going to win out. But when I look at the schedule, it's like, okay, I don't know. Outside of the Bills, I'd be disappointed with any of the losses. And frankly, I'd be disappointed with the Bills loss. And that's a game at home. All this is to say, this Lions team is on a mission. And I've seen this before in other leagues. I've seen this with teams that either get close and don't win, or they feel disrespected in some way. I already mentioned the Michigan team last year. Last year's Florida Panthers team in the NHL felt very similar to that, where they would just slaughter you. Like, they would just suffocate you until, you went limp. I think that this Lions team has that very same attitude, and Dan Campbell is keeping that mentality in them. So, I can't really say much about the actual performance because the performance speaks for itself, but the team is just on a mission. It's on a tear, and I would be, if I was any opposing fan, I would be very afraid to have to see this team on the schedule. Here it is. This is the stat I wanted to talk about. Even more wild. The Lions' second quarter point differential is plus 110. Second place in the league for the season is the Bills, who are plus 106. The entire league's differential is below the Lions. That's amazing. Amazing. Like, you cannot make that up. Like, that's not, like, I think we're getting to the point, guys, where obviously the Lions still need to finish the job. They still need to go out and win the Super Bowl. But and I think when they do, we are going to be talking about one of the single greatest football teams in the history of the NFL. We're not talking about, and look, every Super Bowl winning team is in some sense one of the best teams. But look, we're not talking about, the 2000 and what was it? The 2004, whatever year the Buccaneers won it the first time. We're not talking about that. Or we're not talking about the whatever the Ravens won where they had the terrible quarter. Like, we're not talking about those teams or teams that just kind of happened to get a Super Bowl and people forget about it. Or the Jets in the early 60s, right? Or I guess the mid 60s with Joe Namath. We're not talking about those kind of teams as being this team for the Lions. We are talking, greatest show on turf. We're talking like the 2000 one of many Patriots teams, right? We're talking, the what was it? The one the Denver Broncos team that ended up winning with against Cam Newton. Right? We're talking about, or even one of the Colts teams with Peyton Manning. Like, we're talking about something that will be like, you will have like movies and documentaries about this team. I mean, I think regardless, you'll have a documentary about this because frankly, we need like a Lions history documentary a la the Chicago Cubs documentary a couple of years back. I'm like, look, this is just it's amazing, and I could go on forever, but we got other things to talk about, so that's all I got. But we are on to Indianapolis. Some talking head nicknamed the Lions offense as the main event. Kind of hope that sticks. I did see that, and I to be honest with you, I kind of like it. Like it feels. The problem with nicknames is they got to just sort of form in a way. Like it's hard because like how does a nickname form? Well, somebody calls you that, but like it's similar to like Sonic and Knuckles for Dave Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Like it took a few nicknames to get a nickname that stuck and that really like the media kind of globbed onto and the fans kind of globbed onto. Like it started, it was Thunder and Lightning, and then I remember Peanut Butter and Jelly, and they did not like that one. And then you get Sonic and Knuckles, and it's like, oh yeah, Knuckles. For those of you who don't play video games, Sonic and Knuckles are characters in the Sonic the Hedgehog video game franchise, and Sonic is the blue hedgehog. He's really fast, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs. And Knuckles is an echidna. He's red. He punches people. That's your Sonic information for the week there. And so it works. It works. But yeah, with the main event thing, like it's one of those things where like I'm trying to think of like the Bad Boys for the Pistons. It just sort of emerged. Like somebody called them the Bad Boys, or they called them. I don't know how it happened, but I have the Bad Boys documentary. I could probably just watch that and figure out how that originated. But it's like these things just happen, and they have to happen naturally. You can't force it. So if it doesn't work, it won't. It's just not going to work. If it does, hey, maybe we'll get something. So, all right. So, I want to move along here. Talk more NFL. So, I want to start with coaches that I think should be fired. You know what? We'll do the games, and then we'll ask the question, how are you still here to many of these coaches? So, let's start with the Thursday night game. Philadelphia holds off the Commies. And my question is, are they actually back, or is this just Nick Sirianni getting bailed out by high-end talent? Is this basically just the 2018 Steelers, just high-end talent bailing them out? Shout out urinating tree. Like, I just refuse to believe in Nick Sirianni. I do. Like, first of all, this whole game was ugly until the fourth quarter when the Eagles were like, okay, all right, fine, we'll win. Like, yeah, you don't score a single touchdown the first three quarters. Finally, you decide that you're good enough, and then you blow them out in the fourth quarter, 20 points to 8 points, and that's the ball game. I'm sorry, this doesn't do anything for me, right? This is just the same thing. It feels like that we got with the Eagles last year, where I mean, we'll see if the collapse can really, play itself out here. The Commanders are kind of falling away a little bit as well. I think Jaden Daniels is probably playing hurt. It's probably his worst game of the year this year. 191 yards, a pick, and a touchdown. It's unfortunate because I really like Jaden Daniels those first few weeks, and it seems like he's kind of fallen out of favor here. But no, I cannot seriously believe in Nick Sirianni. He's a cartoon character. I can't. He's like Deion Sanders to me. It's just I don't. You can win all of these games, if your fan base hates you, I know Colorado fans don't hate Deion, but if your fan base hates you the way that Philly fans hate Nick Sirianni, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. And maybe you can say fans are wrong all the time, whatever. Like, he appears to me to be basically a rah guy with absolutely no substance. Like he's like the anti Dan Campbell. I can't stand him. Anyway, moving along. Wow. So the Bears lost to the Packers again. And is anybody surprised? And is anybody surprised? Like I just, you know what's funny? Because what people will say is, well, Caleb Williams had a good game. And he didn't have a bad game. No, by no means would I describe a 231-yard game, 23 for 31, a bad game. And then, of course, the 70 yards on the ground. That's not a bad game. However, if you don't reach the end zone to me as a quarterback and you lose the game by 1 point, how can I sit here and act like this is like some major achievement? Like, at a certain point, and I get it, coaching totally biffed it, right? They had plenty of time left. They, for whatever reason, wanted to just burn out the clock and a deeper field goal, and then they end up losing it on the block or miss. I don't know if it was, I mean, you're putting out Cairo Santos to try to win you games. That's your biggest problem right there. Shout out former Lion. But no, I mean, like, I can't just, again, it's the same. It's like, we're just going to ignore the Caleb Williams didn't throw for a touchdown the whole game. We're just going to ignore that. Okay. I mean, yeah, he picked up some yards. He had some nice plays. He had a nice final drive. That's all good. But again, the team is losing games. Like, he had a lead going into the second half, and he didn't close it out. It's the same thing. You don't score a single point in the fourth quarter. How can I just ignore all of that? Now, I understood. Matt Eberflus is a bum. He needs to get fired. Understood. Yep, great. Same. I mean, like, you can't just ignore that the players on the field are not performing at the level they're supposed to be. And maybe the coach is a part of that. I don't know. All I'm saying is Caleb Williams is supposed to be the most amazing quarterback prospect in the history of quarterback prospects, and he's looking very pedestrian to me. And watch, as I say that, the Bears will probably beat the Lions on Thanksgiving, and I'll have to deal with that mentally and spiritually. Probably mostly spiritually. Probably. And don't worry, we'll talk about Matt Eberflus a little bit later. So keep that note on standby. Moving along though, so very happy with this pun. Aaron Rodgers is immunized from winning football games. Hey Aaron, I just got a question for you. Anytime you want to just start to turn it on with your boys, anytime you want to just let us know, because I was sold by many in the media that this was a Super Bowl team. This was a team that was primed and ready. All they needed was a quarterback. And, well, they got the quarterback. The problem is they got rid of everything else. Even today, they fired Joe Douglas, which is amazing. It's so funny to me. It's clear as crystal, I think, to pretty much everybody that Aaron Rodgers is the problem. He is a cancer in the locker room. He's a terrible leader, and he's a terrible football player. And yet, everything around him is getting destroyed, and he remains. He's like Thanos. He is inevitable. Everything is getting destroyed around him, but you can't. It's like the ownership in New York for the Jets is just, they are not aware, or they're just not cognizant of the fact. And Aaron Rodgers, frankly, I get it. He's getting paid millions of dollars to play football. He's not going to volunteer to bench himself. But buddy, Aaron, Bubby, it is so clear. You can't play. You can't play at a level that you used to be able to play. Just stop. All right? Just stop. He wants to come back next year. Aaron, for your own sake and for the organization that was generous enough to give you a chance, stop. They are not going to win with you. They won't win without you. but they aren't winning with you. So then you might as well just ask for your paycheck and ride away into the sunset and not have to be embarrassed week in and week out. And look, I went into the season, I said the Jets were not going to be good. I did not believe in the Jets. I didn't believe in Robert Saleh. I didn't believe in the roster. And I, most importantly, did not believe in Aaron Rodgers. And fun fact for you, the two people that I didn't believe in probably the least, if that makes, like, I believed in them more than Aaron Rodgers, those are the two that get fired, in Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. So, hey, you know what? I don't know what the plan is exactly. Like, it's weird to me that it's like, okay, you fired the head coach weeks ago, and then now you fire the GM. Like, why didn't you just fire them both at the same time? Why did you let the GM handle another trade deadline in which I don't think they did anything? But why did you even give them that opportunity when you could have given it to a new GM or somebody other than that person who has constructed this roster in such a way at the whims of Aaron Rodgers and clearly having no actual spine? It's just pathetic. The Jets are just so pathetic, and I say this almost half jokingly, but actually I'm being pretty serious. Like, I actually do feel for Jets fans. Like, it's funny. Somebody made this point to me, or rather, not somebody made this point to me. I heard this point listening to sports talk. Like, a lot of these franchise, like the Jaguars and the Jets, they're doing the sorts of things that the Lions did in the past. They're cutting corners. They're pushing. They're trying to, like, just cut to the chase and not actually build that team, build that culture. And you're seeing the fruits of it. Those teams are awful. They're just awful. Like, it's not as though they're fun awful. They're just awful. Right? It's pretty amazing to see like another team doing this. And look, I know the Lions were not the only terrible franchise in the NFL, but it's just something, as the Lions rise, we now see from afar what it looks like, or how we looked to the rest of the world. So, yeah, fun stuff. Sorry, I was just oh, what the heck? Bro, they gave manager of the year to Stephen Vogt? Man, get the heck out of here. AJ Hinch absolutely deserved manager of the year. I don't want to hear it. Stephen Vogt? He was I mean, look, I get they beat us in the playoffs, but this is supposed to be a regular season award. It's not supposed to consider the postseason. How can you give that to Stephen Vogt? Like, the Tigers had like a 2% chance of making the playoffs, and they did. That whole operation was all AJ Hinch. I wash my hands of this. Meanwhile, speaking of washing hands, so I put in here that the Steelers are legit contenders. I should preface this. The Steelers are legit contenders in as much as their defense is very, 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 very good. Their offense, however, is atrocious. Again, like, Russell Wilson is not good. He is cooked. The chef is cooked, as they say. And as far as weapons go, I mean, George Pickens is pretty okay. Did Mike Williams even play? He didn't catch a ball. He's not on the box score. The second best receiver is Darnell Washington. At least this game. The Steelers, though, they do get a win. And they win the game 18-16. Now, what you're probably thinking is, okay, 18 points. That's kind of an odd number, right? Because if you get a touchdown, like, you get typically 7. So, like, maybe it was like, okay, they scored, a touchdown and they got 7. How do they get those 11 points? Maybe they got a safety. The defense is pretty good. Maybe they got a safety. No, they didn't get a safety. I mean, I guess the other way, of course, they could just, score 3 touchdowns and miss all the extra points. Right? That makes sense. Yeah, 3, 6, 12, 18. Yeah, you could do that. No, they didn't do that. So they kicked 6 field goals. They kicked 6 field goals and won the game against Lamar Jackson, the front runner for MVP, and one of the most potent offenses in the league with Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews and all those, and obviously Lamar Jackson. They lost a game to a team that did not score a touchdown. And in pure Ravens fashion, Lamar Jackson had the chance to tie this game up. Late in this game, the Ravens move down the field. They score. All they need is a 2-point conversion, and they butch it. They absolutely butch. Like, this is just the Ravens experience. This is just what it's like to be a Baltimore Ravens fan. Like, at every moment where they can take that step, they can show the world that they're legit. Last year in the AFC Championship game, they are the best offense in football. Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP. He's up against a Mahomes team that is weak, that is, it's good on defense, but the offense has been awful all year. And what does Lamar Jackson do? He poops his pants, and not like he did against the Browns. This is just real, like how he can keep doing this. Where big game, little Lamar. Big game, where's Lamar? He's disappeared. He's gone. I love Lamar Jackson. I want nothing more than for Lamar Jackson to be there in big games, in big moments. But at every step of his career, when he is in those actual big moments, and I know you'll say this is just a regular season game. This was a game that would change the division standings. Right now, the Steelers are leading it. Like, at every stage he has, every chance he gets, he fumbles the bag. So great. He can win all the he's probably going to win the MVP again this year. Look, if you lose again in the playoffs in a big moment, bright lights against a team that is beatable, like you did against the Chiefs and like you've done in the past, at a certain point, it's like, when do we just call you a regular season merchant if we can't already call him that now? And on the other end of it, I mean, John Harbaugh, look, I know he's been there for a while, but that one Super Bowl is really, really carrying him. That if he did not win that Super Bowl, I don't think we would still be talking about John Harbaugh as the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. I really don't. Because at a certain point, it's similar to Lamar. At a certain point, you have to be able to win some of these big games. And he's just not. He's just not. Again, I love John Harbaugh. I love Lamar Jackson. You got to be able to get it done. Got to be able to get it done. Meanwhile, Atlanta. The hell, Atlanta? What was that? First of all, shout out Bo Nix, having a fantastic year. That's weird. That's another quarterback taken after Caleb Williams that's having a better year than him. Whoops. But Atlanta, what happened? Like, this is what's so mind-boggling. Okay, because what you'll say is, well, the Broncos have a good defense, right? Okay, that's true. They do have a pretty good defense. At a certain point, you have to look sort of competitive. You can't get shut out in the second half. Like they scored as many points this week against the Broncos as the Jags did against the Lions. Like, I do not think that, for one, I heard somebody say Sean Payton is still a top 5 coach in the NFL. I don't think that's true at all. I think this guy's a total hack artist. And look, maybe he's figured out something with Bo Nix, or alternatively, it's very similar to last year where he's kind of turning it on in the middle of the year when they've already kind of got themselves into a bit of a hole, see if they can dig themselves out of it this time. I don't really trust Sean Payton, but frankly, I can't really trust the Falcons at this point. I can't. When was their last really good win? Was it that Bucs game? Okay, you beat the Cowboys. That doesn't do anything for me, honestly. Beating the Cowboys does nothing for me. It's fun, but You've now had back-to-back losses against teams that very well might not make the playoffs. The Saints, they might not make the playoffs, although they're creeping up on you in that division race. So watch out. Broncos might not make the playoffs. You got the Chargers at home this weekend. Boy, oh boy, you better hope. All right, you better hope that you bring your A game to that game at least. Like, you cannot go into that game and drop another dud like that. Wait. I lost the sneeze. I guess they don't have the Chargers this week. That's my bad. They have them a week from this week. Because they're on the bye. I apologize. I lost a sneeze, and now my entire face is dying. So if I look terrible, that's because I lost a sneeze. It's one of the worst feelings you can get as a human being, is losing the sneeze. So they're on a bye. So you get a bye to figure things out. I guess if you're gonna say anything, it's a good time for your bye week. But I don't. Why are they like this? Why is it that every, like, they get hot, right? They get those couple of wins. The win over Tampa Bay was a great win. The win over Dallas was a feel good win, and then you just drop these two games inexplicably. Can't do it. I want to talk about this before we get to the Bills Chiefs, because that's obviously the game of the week. San Fran's dead. I mean, they're just dead. Like, for one, you lose Nick Bosa, so you're already not feeling great about that. Secondly, you lose in an embarrassing fashion where you're up basically the whole game, and then at the very last minute, the shoe drops and you just die. Brock Purdy has another stinker of a game. He just looked terrible. I mean, he was accurate, but he was not putting together the yards. The totality was not there. And obviously the scoring ultimately was not really all there. Like, it's one of those things where the more that this San Fran team plays, the more it's just like, look, they are just not good. Like, it's not entirely their fault. The injuries are just mounting, right? It's like, you don't have Brandon Ayuk, so that's your deep ball threat gone. Your next best option is like Jawan Jennings or Rick Pearsall. Deebo Samuel has just not been that guy. Christian McCaffrey's just coming back from injury. I don't know. It just, the writing feels on the wall for San Fran. It just doesn't feel like a team that can even make the playoffs, let alone get back to the Super Bowl. I think last year was sort of their shot, and like the Lions in the NFC Championship game, they blew it. Now let's get to let's get to the Bills Chiefs. This was the game of the week, and finally, the Chiefs lose a game. Finally, somebody actually performed at a competent level against the Chiefs. Now, I needed this for the culture, because I don't know that the Chiefs are going to lose any more games. And that's just because, I mean, the way that their schedule just lined up, they just really don't have that many tough teams they got to play. And that's the credit to them, because they're a very good team. But when you got the Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, Browns, Texans down the stretch, not too bad. Not too bad. Although they do have some of those teams are not, they're not total nothings. But look, the thing about this game is I'm a little bored with it, in as much as, okay, how many years in a row has this game been put up on the pedestal of, like, this is the big rivalry in the AFC. Bills, Chiefs, Josh Allen, Mahomes. It's a fun game. Here's my problem. In the regular season, it always kind of feels at least somewhat evenly matched. I want to say it's 4-4 between the two of these teams in the regular season the past however many years they've been doing this. At least, like, recently. But when it comes to the playoffs, the Bills just always fail. So look, yeah, great. You got your win in the regular season. Do not make this your Super Bowl, right? Like, you need to be able to get wins like this in the playoffs. And year after year after year that they play the Chiefs, they don't finish the job. Like last year, again, bad Chiefs team. And you missed the field goal right. And then, a couple of years back in the shootout game, right? You need one stop. All you have to do is keep the Chiefs out of field goal range, and you can't do it. So, look, it's a fun game. Again, it was very good entertainment. You need to be able to do this in the playoffs when it matters, bright lights, all that fun stuff. Like, Mahomes this year has looked terrible. I know he's Mahomes, and the thing is, it's like if you dare suggest that Mahomes is, not good, then you're just thrown out into the pit. But look, the guy's got 15 touchdowns to 11 interceptions and 2,400 yards. He's just not had a Mahomesian year. Right? This is certainly not good up to his own standards, but this is the year for a team in the AFC to take advantage. But unfortunately for the AFC, the two options seemingly are the Bills and the Ravens. And I cannot trust either of those teams in the big moments. So look, I would take having to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl as a Lions fan because I think we could beat them. And I think we certainly, we've shown the ability to beat them in recent memory. I think we could beat them as a team that is worse this year with the Chiefs this year. But I don't want to have to deal with it. I want somebody else to actually finish the job. They're so vulnerable. Can we please actually have somebody in the AFC step up and do something? Because the more and more I see, they finally did it in the regular season. Okay, great. The regular season doesn't mean much to some of these teams. The Bills especially. I don't know how much longer their window is open with Sean McDermott. I know they've kind of retooled stuff and they've managed to basically not miss a step. But as long as Mahomes is the quarterback of the Chiefs, they're always going to have a chance to win any game. Unfortunately, I don't know if the AFC is aware of the fact that Mahomes has not looked good for most of this year. So, yeah. And then finally, before we get into how do you still have a job, let's talk about this Chargers-Bengals game. So, full disclosure, went to bed at the end of the half. I was tired, all right? I was done for the day. I wanted to do some reading. I wanted to just relax before the end of the day. I did not what is it with the Bengals and coming back only to lose games in heartbreaking fashion? Joe Burrow goes out there, throws the ball 50 times. So he is putting the team on his back. 356 yards and 3 tutties with no interceptions, sacked just 3 times, and he got 28 yards on the ground. And it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like, I feel terrible for the Bengals. I love Joe Burrow, all right? I drafted him in fantasy. I thought he was going to win the MVP this year, and frankly, he very well could. But the problem is his team is awful. You are now 4-7. You're practically speaking out of it for the playoffs. 3-3 on the road. You're definitely not going to win your division. That's pretty much out of the question. And it's just, again, it's another year of Joe Burrow that is just wasted. I think their window closed, at least with this team as it stands. Obviously, you're going to keep Joe Burrow, but with this roster as it is, I think their window closed a lot quicker than they thought. I think last year was their chance, and Joe Burrow gets hurt, and it all sort of falls apart. It's unfortunate. That's why, you go back through the history of teams that lose in the Super Bowl, and it is rare that they come back and win it again. We're talking teams like the Patriots as one of those teams that loses in the Super Bowl and comes back. Or, trying to think of any other example, honestly. pretty much every example, you lose in the Super Bowl, you just don't go back. Or at least you don't go back for a long time. This is just, it just feels that way for the Bengals. It does not feel like things are getting better. And as we'll get to it soon, Zach Taylor, I don't know exactly what you do here. I really don't. So, all right. So now we'll get to the moment everybody's been waiting for, which is, of course, how are you still here? The show. I don't really have any. There's no. I'm just gonna kind of go down the list here. So let's just start it. Matt Eberflus. How many games do you gotta lose until this guy's gone? Like, here's the thing. I know the Bears never fire in season. I don't think they've ever actually fired a coach. Period. I know that recently they have not done this. But Matt Eberflus, once again, and I know I just talked about Caleb Williams deserves some share of the blame, and I think he does. But Matt Eberflus has I want to say it was like 45 seconds on the clock, and he's got a timeout. And instead of running a couple of plays, maybe even trying to pass the ball, get a little bit closer, he does the safe thing. He doesn't take any risks. Doesn't want to, get in trouble. I'll just take the knee. I mean, it's not like they're going to block it or anything. And of course, they block it. That's a game that they lose because of Matt Eberflus. If you put a coach with a little bit more spine, a little more cojones, they don't lose that game. So I don't know how you still have a job. Then we got Doug Peterson. So I fully expected Doug Peterson to be fired like yesterday. And just checked my phone just now. He has not been fired. He has not been fired. Despite the fact that I was sold by the by the media that Shad Khan had said, oh, he's, heads are going to roll. If they perform badly on Sunday, bad things are going to happen. Like, no, I guess not. Like, it just feels like to me, like Doug Peterson is doing the George Costanza in that episode of Seinfeld where his girlfriend's going to break up with him. So he just stops answering all of her phone calls and just tries to avoid seeing her in public. Like, it just feels like that. That's just what it feels like is happening right now. So I don't know how he does the job. He had the one okay half a season with Jacksonville, but outside of that, Trevor Lawrence has not gotten better under him. The team has not gotten better under him. In fact, the team has gotten worse. It just feels like he's sort of past his prime. And obviously, Philly fans adore and love him for his Super Bowl run. But it is feeling much more and more like at least that run was more miraculous than it already was. So moving along now. This one, I think, is going under the radar in a sense. And I don't know that this guy deserves necessarily to be fired, but it's not looking good. That's Antonio Pierce. Have people even talked about the Vegas Raiders? The Raiders are awful. They're so awful. Like, for one, you don't have a quarterback. Now, obviously, that's going to harm any coach's ability to succeed. If you don't have a quarterback, it is so hard to win in this league without a quarterback. It's hard to win in this league with a quarterback. But, I mean, now we're talking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses in a row. You got the Broncos on Sunday at home. I mean, at a certain point, like, I get it. He does still have some time, right? It's just his second year. It's his first full year, second year as head coach. But from the way the team had been performing last year with him as the coach to now the way the team is performing after a full offseason, after a full, all of that, I don't know. It just, I would put him in the hot seat, but I know things can change quickly here. So not ready to bury him exactly just yet. This one is kind of sad. But Kevin Stefanski, look, I don't think Kevin Stefanski is a bad coach. I really don't. I think he's been put in an awful spot. But the fact that he still has a job is still concerning to me. I mean, like, again, this Browns team, similar to the Raiders, where it's just like, does anybody even Like, does anybody even know that they're this? Like, does anybody even care? Like, they get the win against the Ravens a couple of weeks ago, and nobody even cares. Literally, no human being cares. It doesn't matter. I forgot that they beat the Ravens. That's how bad it is. It's just. I'm sorry. Like, it's not your fault, Kevin. And if and when he gets fired, because I don't think he's going to keep his job. I think he will find a place where he can succeed. If he gets hired in by a competent organization, I mean, he could do some good things, but yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible in Cleveland, so he's gonna have to go at some point. Well, they already fired their head coach in New York, so can't really talk about him. Let's see, is there anybody else? Oh, of course. There's two others. Let's start with Zach Taylor, because I alluded to him. Ever since that Super Bowl year, the Bengals have done millions are dead. Millions are dead. Not literally, not actually. But I mean, like, they have just careened down a dark path. And even in that Super Bowl run, there were some questionable things. Like, it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, look, the team has gone to slow starts the past, 3 years in a row at this point. Like, that's on coaching. And the way that they are have to claw back in the second half of the game, it's like they are not prepared for game. That is on coaching. That is on culture. It's just not working out with Zach Taylor. And I don't know how good of I don't know how good of a coach he was to begin with. So, I mean, again, you could if he had won that Super Bowl, he probably would be in a much better spot. But because he didn't, I think he should certainly be on the hot seat, no doubt. Now, this one. I've talked about this before. All right. I do not know how this is possible. I'm speechless at this very moment, trying to understand. How does Mike McCarthy have a job? How? He has to have some blackmail material on Jerry Jones. I don't care that Dak Prescott is hurt. I don't care that they have to put out Cooper Rush. I don't care. You have not won a home game since the refs bailed your ass out. It is at a certain point. You have to put out a mirage to your fans that you at least are aware of the fact that your team's head coach has completely lost control. You have players. I mean, I don't support the players doing this, or Micah Parsons more specifically doing this, but you have Micah Parsons who is calling him a dead man walking, okay? And as much as I don't support Micah Parsons saying that, because I don't think it's the right thing for a player to be saying, that's something for people like me to be saying. Everybody is aware of this, okay? Up to and including the players. So just finish it, Jara. Just get rid of it. All right. You already have the Bill Belichick rumors. Just fire him and be done with it. Because it's just disrespectful to put the man out there at this point. I almost feel sorry for him if he wasn't making millions of dollars. But even if he's making millions, it's like this poor guy is just put out there, and it's like, okay, well, Cooper, I guess we'll run a halfback dive. I don't know. Help me. I'm just and the problem is for the Cowboys is that they get all these national, all these national broadcasts. So every week or every other week or so, you're seeing a national broadcast, and of course, they're just getting killed. It's just I feel like every single week I'm gonna be doing this. I simply cannot fathom him keeping his job at the end of the year, because they're definitely not making the playoffs. This Cowboys team sucks. They're awful. Even with Dak, they probably wouldn't have made the playoffs. If he keeps his job at the end of the year, I don't know how. This feels like Matt Patricia that final year. So maybe losing on Thanksgiving, if that's even possible, because they're playing the Giants with Tommy DeVito. If somehow, some way, he gets past a Thanksgiving Day loss, then yeah, he's just staying for the rest of the year. Like he's not gonna get fired until maybe the offseason. And like with the offseason, it's like that anything can happen. So yeah, it's not good. It's in fact very bad in Dallas. But I'm here for it. I'm happy about it. So Michigan State just started against Samford here, and then they just turned the ball over on an absolutely god-awful pass. What the heck was that? Who was that just threw that pass? Who was that just threw that pass? All right, I'm going to have to head to the Breslin Center right now and go kill somebody. That's a joke. That's a joke. I'm not actually going to do that. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. I was laughing. It was sarcasm. Anybody, let the transcript show that it was a joke. Put parentheses joke. Let the record show. All right. Anyway. So I want to start with college football. Get into some college football. So now I want to start with Michigan State because, again, full disclosure, I really did not watch this game. I was out of town. The game was on, but I was not focusing on it. Michigan State loses again. They get blown out again. A game that was very winnable. A game that they were in it for some amount of time in the second half, and they just blow it. So my general feeling about look, okay, Childs, I guess if you just look at the stat sheet, I'm only telling you what I see on the stat sheet, had these in enough game. Okay. Michigan State needs just 2 more wins to get into bowl eligibility. One small problem. They only have 2 games left. Now, one of them is this Friday against Purdue, who has won a singular game at home. I hate to write in wins before you have them. However, I am going to say that is at least more than likely a win than it is a loss. Is that fair? I think that's fair. Let's say Michigan State loses one out of these 2. Whether it's Purdue or Rutgers, I think I'd be more upset if they lose to Purdue and then beat Rutgers in a way. But let's just say they don't get it done. Does the confidence in whatever Jonathan Smith is doing for Michigan State wane if they do not get this done? I think for me, unequivocally, yes. Because it's not as though we're talking about, it's not as though we're talking about a team that was, let's just say 4 wins and they needed 4 wins and they were just dead, right? Like, I don't know. Like Michigan State went on I guess we do have 4 wins, but we win 4 in a row and then we lose 6 in a row or something. Or rather we have 3 wins on the year and then we needed a miracle or something. We're not dealing with that. We're dealing with a situation where if we just go up and down this schedule really quick, Boston College was a very winnable game that we lost. Michigan was a winnable game that we lost. Illinois is a winnable game that we lost. That's 3 wins. That would have put us in bowl eligibility and then some. And so now we're having to deal with games that, look, Rutgers, not very good. Purdue, not very good. However, you've now put yourself in a spot where you got to get those wins in order to just get into the bowl eligibility. And I know that the bowl games don't mean as much as they used to. I know that it's a college football playoff world and we're just living it. I understand. However, they have to mean you have to get your program to a certain level of relevancy. You can't just go out there in this era of college football with the transfer portal, with NIL, and all that fun stuff, and just go out and have a garbage year, especially when, as a head coach, you went out and got much of these guys. We didn't have to get Aiden Childs. You got him all on your own. We didn't have to get, Nick Marsh or Jack Velling. You got both those guys all on your own. And Nick Marsh is fabulous. And Aiden Childs, look, I see the potential. I know he's not there yet, but I do think he could be a very good quarterback in the Big Ten. I really, really do. but you have to be able to actually win these games that are there for you. This Illinois game, it is a blowout at the end of it. It really didn't have to be. It was a one-score game in the fourth quarter, and it just totally fell apart. So I do think that Jonathan Smith, if he loses, certainly if he loses to Purdue, if he loses to Rutgers, at least you can say, okay, it was a rough year. There's very little talent on the team. The offensive line is terrible. The defensive line is terrible. You just don't have the trenches. And if you don't have the trenches in the game of football, you're not going to win. So at least we can identify this is what we got to do better. And again, look, this is probably, frankly, for a while now, this is the best Michigan State has looked since Kenneth Walker, which is not great because Kenneth Walker year was amazing. And the fact that this is the next best tells me just how bad it has been. To me, you have to win these games or else I just don't. You're putting yourself in a tough spot to win back my confidence. You really, really are. It's similar to look, it's one thing in the NFL to, be terrible, right? I remember Dan Campbell's first year. It was an awful year. It's one thing to lose all those games, right? And just be bad. It's another thing to leave wins on the table. It's another thing to just drop games you should not have dropped. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they can get it done. And if they do, I will consider this season a resounding success, right? Which, for the standard that we're living in, look, if Michigan State can be in a bowl game and be able to take home the Pinstripe Bowl trophy, I don't care. It's at least something. And you can build off of that. And Jonathan Smith has built programs everywhere he's been, most recently with Oregon State. I do think he can be that guy, but he's got to be able to clean up some of the coaching mishaps, some of the time miscues, some of the play calling. He's got to be able to clean it up. I understand that he doesn't have the guys. He doesn't have everything in place. But life comes at you fast, buddy boy. You're going to have to speed up. You're going to have to speed up, figure it out. Because the offense has absolutely no consistency in terms of scoring points. They might be able to march down the field. They've shown that ability. But scoring points? No, not so much. All right. By the way, Michigan State is getting its doors knocked off of them by Samford at home. Fun. This is the year. This is the year where we make the tournament. Or do things in the tournament. I doubt it. I love basketball. It's so much fun. I love college basketball. It's so great to see Michigan State lose it. Be terrible again. We have the worst 3-point shooting ever. I've never seen a team this bad in 3-point shooting. Whatever. Whatever. All right. So I only got a couple of things in college football because it was kind of a week. So first thing I got to talk about, Georgia, Tennessee. Georgia gets the win. They blow out Tennessee. Carson Beck finally does not look terrible. Nico Iliamaluba does not have a great game. And naturally, Volunteers don't win the game. So I don't know when the rankings will officially come out. I'm sure they're going to be coming out here in 15 minutes or so. But yeah, I think Georgia is probably going to be in it, right? I think they're probably going to just sneak in at this point. Yeah, I guess I can check unless they come out earlier. College football CFP rankings. Here we are. Come out earlier. Week 12. Is this the latest one? It must be. I think it's, yeah. Right? Hold on. Let me just double check. What week is this? Yeah, this is week 12. Oh. They did come out. All right, well, we'll talk about those later. Yeah, so Georgia gets the win. It was a nice win. They needed to get the win. Must win. Had to have it. Got it done. Got it done. Just feels like that's the kind of team that Georgia can be, albeit sometimes they'll be a little inconsistent. So I would still be scared to play them in the playoffs, but they needed to win, and they got it. Let's see. The other game I wanted to talk about was Oregon-Wisconsin. Was this just like the standard, like random scary game that a very good team has to play every year? Or alternatively, and potentially more funny, Oregon actually not that good. Okay, obviously Oregon is good. All right, you're 11-0, right? That's at a level we can't even we really can't even accurately describe how good that is. However, it is kind of weird that they randomly almost lose this game. I'm just saying. So, yeah, I don't have much else to add. I didn't watch the game. Just saying. I also didn't watch the Georgia game. Look, man, I have only so much time in my day-to-day life, right? If you expect me to watch every single one of these games, you need to get a life. How about that? If you watch every single one of these games, I would maybe you could come tell me about them. then fine. All right, but new college football playoff rankings come out, so we're gonna just talk about them very quickly. I wish it showed like the change like they do in the AP poll, but we'll just talk about it here. Starting at 25, Illinois gets into 25, UNLV at 24, Missouri 23, Iowa State at 22, Arizona State at 21, the Sun Devils, look out. Tulane at 20, Army at 19, South Carolina at 18, Clemson at 17, Colorado at 16, Texas A&M at 15, BYU at 14, SMU at 13. Then finally into the actual teams that got in. Boise State at 12, Tennessee sitting at 11, Georgia gets back in to number 10, Ole Miss at 9, Miami at 8, Alabama at 7, Notre Dame at 6, Indiana at 5, Penn State 4, Texas 3, Ohio State 2, and Oregon at 1. Yeah, there really isn't anything crazy. I mean, last week, let me just see. Last week, yeah, Georgia was ranked number 12, but they were the first team out. I actually don't know how some of this works, but now they're definitely in. Could I see the actual 2025 playoff championship game? I don't want the championship. I want just like I just see about the playoff format. Can I just see the live playoff format? Okay, this is like I don't want to have to read like a 400-page essay just to understand. 2024, 2025 bracket. Okay, this is not helpful. This is just like filling in with the teams. All right. Anyway, we're just gonna stick with this. Yeah. So again, not really anything that's shocking. I would put Indiana over Penn State because I just don't believe James Franklin can do anything right in life. So that's the only thing I would change, especially given that Indiana is 10-0. They'll have their first big challenge this year against Ohio State. And I do think they can win that game, by the way. So there's that. And then I guess outside of that, I really don't have much else to add. I do find it funny that LSU did not even make it into the top 25. You hate to see it. But now, before we end off college football here, talk about games to look forward to this week. So, Friday night, under the lights, Michigan State hosting Purdue. Moving along, biggest game of the weekend, easily, Indiana at Ohio State, big noon on Fox. That's going to be the game to look out for. I'm just gonna throw out basically everything else. There's probably a few other games. That's the game to look out for. Indiana, Ohio State, noon. Start your college football day right. Unfortunately, you're going to have to listen to Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt, speak, and that's its own problem. But yeah, you do get that. That's the biggest game of the week. I mean, the rest of the week. Do you really BYU at Arizona State? No, not interested. That's literally it. That's like the only. I guess Notre Dame and Army. That could be fun. Notre Dame has a chance to do the funniest thing in the world, which is lose to Army at home. So if you're in it for the memes, there's that. Other than that, it's just there's nothing. There's just nothing. Alabama against Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma may be looking to play spoiler, I guess. But yeah, maybe you could watch Marshall Old Dominion. I really hope they don't get New Dominion to show up. That's on ESPNU, the Ocho. ESPN 8, the Ocho. They really need to bring that channel back. For real this time. I know they did it on ESPN 2 on April Fool's. Like years and years ago. They need to do that full time. ESPN 8, the Ocho. There really are a lot of ESPN channels at this point. In a sense, I mean, like ESPN 2, Electric Boogaloo. Then you got ESPN Plus, which is the streaming service, but it is, in a sense, its own little channel. And then you got ABC, which is kind of ESPN. It's ESPN on ABC. And then you got ESPNU. And then you also got the SEC network, which I think is ESPN. Yeah, SEC network, which I think is like ESPN. There's like a little ESPN logo there. Crazy. They got a lot of networks. They should do like sports shows or something. But yeah. So there's that. That's basically it for that. So we now get to that point in the show. Everybody talks about it. At least I talk about it. And that's gotta come for something. Right? Hopefully. You already know what it is. It's the picks. Hold on. Hit the music. Wait. Yeah, hit the music. There we go. On the year, I am 1 game ahead, I believe, of Seth. I am. 1 game ahead on the regular season. Overall, though, Seth is still 2 games ahead of me. I need to get ahead, guys. I need to get ahead. This guy out here working at Home Depot every single Tuesday evening when he should be hosting the show, and he's kicking my behind. I'm just kidding. I love you, Seth. Okay. All right. Let's get to it, though. Thursday night football. We got Steelers at the Brownies. Seth is taking the Steelers. Yeah, I got to take the Steelers here. That defense is just too good, and the Browns just have no identity. They're basically just a dead body. It's not good. It's not good in Cleveland. They are very, very not talented. And they just feel like they're just a dead team walking at this point. So yeah, give me the Steelers, get the win. And then in one of the most lopsided matchups I've seen in a very long time, the Chiefs in Carolina visiting the Panthers in what is basically their summer home, even though Carolina can get pretty cold. Seth is obviously taking the Chiefs. I just had to look to confirm. Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs as well. I got nothing to say. Chiefs are gonna win. Yeah. See you later. Vikings Bears. Seth is taking the Vikings to win this game. Yeah, this just does feel like a Vikings win, doesn't it? The Bears coming off a sad loss against a Packer team, which is not the best Packer team in the world, but they stayed in it until the very, very end. Yeah, I don't see this going well with the Bears. I'm gonna have to stick with Sam Darnold, who proving a lot of people wrong, myself included. He's managed to stick with it. Granted, he's had some stinkers of games there, but he's managed to get the win. So give me the Vikings over the Bears. Why not? Because the Bears suck. That's why. Titans at the Texans. Seth is taking the Texans. Yeah, gotta take the home dogs here. Or home dogs? I don't know if they're dogs. The Titans are terrible. They're fighting for that number 1 overall pick. They're shit because they have no quarterback. Will Levis is not that guy. I've basically forgotten about the Titans to the point where I just instinctively pick against them. They were very similar to the Panthers last year, where they're just so forgettable that I just ignore them. So yeah, give me the Texans get the win. Lions visiting Indianapolis, taking on the Colts. Seth is taking the Lions. Yeah, I mean, come on. Is this even a question? You have to take the Lions. They're the best team in the NFL. And a win on Sunday, and a Chiefs loss on Sunday to the Panthers. And they will take sole possession of it. So, go Panthers, go. As far as I'm concerned. Not that that matters. All that matters is that it's a game. Either way, Lions are just too good. I know you lose Alex Anzalone, which is obviously a hurt to your defense. I don't think it's going to matter because Anthony Richardson is butt. And I don't care that he beat the Jets. The Jets are terrible. The Jets are just so bad. And Anthony Richardson is not very good. Oh, yeah. Give me the Lions, get the win. Patriots at the Dolphins. This is kind of a gross game. It's kind of a tank bowl, I guess. Seth is taking the Dolphins. Yeah, I'm going to actually take the Dolphins as well. Kind of feels like a bad team they can beat up on in their home. Tua's back. They're kind of getting a little bit of rhythm. You saw him blow out the Vegas Raiders there. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just don't see... I don't see the lack of talent for the Patriots being made up for the fact that Drake May is actually playing pretty well. So, yeah, give me the Dolphins, get the win here. Buccaneers at the Giants. Seth is taking the Buccaneers. And I don't know that we have disagreed yet, and we're not going to start now. I got to take the Buccaneers. Look, Daniel Jones has been benched. Tommy DeVito is coming in. The Giants are waving the white flag. They are ending their season. So... yeah, I'm taking the Buccaneers. They're coming off of, I think they're coming off of a bye. Yeah, I believe they are coming off the bye. They're one of the most injured teams in the league, but Baker Mayfield is a really solid quarterback. Keep you in games. I think this is a get-right game for the Buccaneers to get themselves back into that division race where they belong, because that's a wide-open division. That NFC South, man, is wide open, just like last year. So, the Bucs, you win that division, you get yourself in the playoffs, and it's definitely within reach. Cowboys at the Commanders. Seth is taking the Commanders. Yeah, I feel terrible because we're just taking all the same picks. I got to with the Commanders. They're just, like, this feels like a get-right game for them. They've kind of been struggling recently, but now you got Cooper Rush on the Cowboys, and that team is terrible. It's just awful. So, yeah. And the Commanders, get right. Jaden Daniels, he's been probably playing hurt, but I don't think it's gonna matter this game. I think he could play with no ring. Probably will. So yeah, give me the Commanders to get the win over the Cowboys. Broncos at the Raiders. Seth is taking the Broncos. Again, I have to agree with him. What am I supposed to say? The Broncos, they're playing pretty hot right now, and the Raiders are ice cold. So it just feels like another Broncos win. I know it's going to be on the road, but I don't know how many Vegas Raiders really are in Vegas. The stadium might get taken over by Broncos fans. I don't know how many Broncos fans there really are in Vegas, but either way, probably more. Yeah, I don't know what the Raiders' identity is. They have no more Devontae Adams. That's their best offensive weapon. Brock Bowers is very good, but you're not going to be able to win games solely with Brock Bowers. So, give me the Broncos. 49ers at the Packers. Seth is taking the Packers. All right, fine. I'll take the Packers too. I don't, like, there's too many injuries for the 49ers. They've blown far too many winnable games this year. I got to take the Packers. They're getting hot. They just got the win over the division rival Bears. They're fighting for a playoff spot. And the 49ers, they're just slowly dying. With no Nick Bosa, I don't see that pass rush being good enough to be able to put enough pressure on the Packers. So, unless your secondary really comes alive, San Fran, I don't think you're going to be able to have a good time. Give me a pack. Cardinals at the Seahawks. Seth is taking... Hold on. Wait, where is it? Seahawks. Okay. All right, finally, I can disagree with him. All right, finally. I was waiting for the opportunity. I'll take the Cardinals. The Cardinals, leading that division, for one. I think they are one of the bigger sleeper teams this year in the NFC. I don't think they're going to, win the Super Bowl or anything like that, but I like this Cardinals team going into the year. I like their coach. I think they're quietly just putting together a solid season. Coming off of their bye this week, it just feels like Cardinals win on the road. Despite the fact that Geno Smith had that big win last week against the 49ers, I don't believe Geno Smith is the future for them. I think he is a part of the past. So give me the Cardinals to get that win and inch ever closer to that NFC West division title. Eagles at the Rams for Sunday Night Football. Oh, Sunday night. Seth is taking the Eagles. I am going to disagree again. I'm taking the Rams. The Rams, look, that wide receiver weapon group, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Matt Stafford throwing dimes. I don't know. This feels like a loss for Philly. This feels like finally a team with a little bit of backbone. It's not the best team in the league, but I think it's a team that could definitely put some fright into them. And if the Eagles let Matt Stafford get hot there, I don't think it's going to go well for the Eagles. So give me the Rams. And finally, Monday Night Football. Ravens at the Chargers. Seth is taking his Chargers. I got to agree with him. Chargers have second half notwithstanding, Chargers have a very good defense. We've seen Lamar struggle against good defense. We just saw it last week. I think the Chargers are going to be able to put on a nice show here. We saw the capability that Justin Herbert can have when he is hot and when he is just dealing to his receivers. His connection with Quentin Johnston this year looks a lot better than it did last year. So yeah, give me the Chargers to get this win. It's another Harbaugh off. You know, John Harbaugh versus Jim Harbaugh. This time, Jim in a Chargers uniform out in LA. And of course, they got to put that game on prime time. So the battle of the Harbaughs. Give me Jim. All right, rounding it out here. Steelers, Browns. We're both taking the Steelers. Chiefs, Panthers. We're both taking the Chiefs. Vikings, Bears. We are both taking the Vikings. Titans, Texans. We're both taking the Texans. Lions, Colts. We're both taking the Lions. Patriots, Dolphins. We're both taking the Dolphins. Buccaneers, Giants. We're both taking the Buccaneers. Cowboys, Commanders. We're both taking the Commanders. Broncos, Raiders. We're both taking the Broncos. 49ers, Packers. We're both taking the Packers. Cardinals, Seahawks. Seth is taking the Seahawks. I am taking the Cardinals. Rams, Eagles, Rams, I should say. Seth is taking the Eagles. I am taking the Rams. And Ravens, Chargers. We are both taking the Chargers. And those are your NFL Week 12 picks. That was fun. I got a little scared we were going to just have all the same. Because I'm like, see, here's the thing. We have two teams that we disagree on who's going to win. The difference overall is 2 games. I need both those wins. All right? For the culture. For my sanity. All right? I need both those wins, please. I think Seth beat me overall last year. I can't lose 2 years in a row, damn it. I can't do it. All right. Anyway, that's the show. So I guess we'll look ahead here. Friday night, Michigan State hosting Purdue. Friday Night Football. I will be live for that game. So finally, we'll be able to do some more college football live reacts. Haven't been able to do that in a while. Just been busy the last couple of weeks. I know I said after the final tailgate, a month or so ago, I was like, oh, we're going to be able to do more college football games. And then the next couple of Saturdays, I just got loaded up with stuff. And then it was a bye week and things. So yeah, going to be able to do that game on Friday. And then planning on being able to do the final game of the regular season for Michigan State. So, hey, we hopefully these are going to be the big games that matter. We'll be able to see if Michigan State will clinch a bowl game this year. So, yeah. All right. So, and then also Sunday, Lions, Colts. Obviously, we'll be live streaming that. That game is at 1:00 Eastern. We'll be live around 12:50 to get started. Another 1:00 game. That's, I believe, the last scheduled 1:00 game, because the final game of the week has still not yet been determined when that time will be. And it'll probably be a little bit until we find out. So, with all of that being said, I do appreciate everybody if you stopping by, listening in, hanging out. We do this show every single Tuesday live at the same time, 7:00 Eastern. It's a fun time. And this time, we don't have to wait and see if Michigan State is going to lose this game, because currently they're still losing. And I don't want to talk about it. All right. So I'm going to go watch the rest of this game and be sad. Clips of the show, in case you missed any of it, will be uploaded tomorrow. And that's all I got. So have a good night, everybody. And I will hopefully see you all Friday night for Michigan State Purdue. See you later. Goodbye. See ya.